Okay, great. Well,
Oh, Sherry,
hey, Shay.
Hello.
snuck in there, huh?
Is there anybody else on the call, Tina? Is
Josie and Dave Pepple.
just Dave? All right. All right, it is
Dave and.
Dave and Dennis. Great, both there. Call the meeting to order. It is 5:30. We do have a quorum. Lauren is not here and I do not see her on the call yet. Nevertheless, we'll continue. First order of business is to accept the minutes of the February 17th regular meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Shay,
Second.
second by Melissa. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, and I guess I'll go with a roll call. Shay,
Aye.
Phil,
Aye.
Melissa.
Aye.
I also vote aye. The minutes are approved. Next order of business is visitor comments and petitions.
Would you like to come up here, Dick, so you could,
Victor Grass, we do have several
The
folks
only
here.
comment was that you missed somebody on the minutes here that you sent out about the selectmen's meeting. John Keir is now the chairman of the water committee.
oh, John Kerr.
John Keir. And I wanted to make sure that was clear because we made a transition. Dave Pendleton stepped back and so did I. And I think that's really getting on. It's
Yeah.
time.
No, I think it's great. And
It's fine.
Pam Larson's on the appointment tonight.
Right, that's terrific.
Yeah.
Good people and I'm glad to turn it over.
Yeah.
So I think I just want to make that clear that we did this intentionally.
Great. Well, thanks for showing up and let us know.
Young people deserve to be here. This island is well taken care of. That's all I wanted to say.
You have anything you want to add or? Well, thanks to Dick for that. Next order of business is the ferry service update. I know this is on upcoming meetings and subcommittee reports, but Mark Higgins and I believe Dave Bernhardt is also coming. And that is next week, which I think is a Wednesday.
Wednesday, 9.
Night.
And he's coming on the 9 o'clock boat. And that was under my point to see what you want to do about how you want to handle that. Do you want to have it, do you want to Zoom his meeting? Do you have people that might want to talk or listen? He mentioned people who are interested in electric ferry, Peter Wilcox, Earl McKenzie. He mentioned Roger, maybe thinking Roger Heinen. I
I'm
don't
thinking
know.
Roger Hyman, yeah. And I think John King has blasted an email to some of those people to let them know that this is going on.
So we should plan a Zoom.
Yeah.
Then. And who are you are coming in person? I mean, if there's 3, so 3 or more, I have to post it as a selectmen's meeting, or we can call it a workshop.
Whatever, a workshop or meeting.
Know if you were gonna come.
I don't know. It, I didn't know it was supposed to snow today, so I don't know what the school's
Yeah.
gonna,
Me
So
neither.
we
I was very
will-
surprised this morning.
right.
We'll post it where you will Zoom it.
I
And
will,
I'm setting the time for 10. They're coming on the 9, unless you want to do it earlier. They're coming on the 9 o'clock ferry, he said.
And going back, what, on the 12:30?
Whatever.
Would
So
we discuss the ferry schedule that John has brought up about
probably
changing this
discuss
summer?
Everything you want to
Yeah.
discuss.
Discussing the ferry schedule, and I think John King mentioned that there was some interest in discussing a potential name for a new vessel for
Oh, yeah.
Houseborough. And I think the name, the Mitchell has been floated around. The George Mitchell, or the Mitchell, yeah, the George Mitchell problem. So I think that's potential, potential discussion point, not that we're close to
I
naming a
didn't
vote or
realize
having a
the
vote.
islands, or the advisory
Yeah.
board, do they recommend who? I
So
remember with the Market Chase Smith.
I don't know that they've been doing that, and I don't think they have because there's a new boat, the Sphere, that was just
Oh, right,
christened, but I don't think that that name went through the advisory board despite the charge to the advisory board. One of the things that they're, tasked with is naming the vessels. I don't think it's a huge thing, but it's nice to have some input from the community. I think the George Mitchell would be a good name for a boat.
Mitchell, Maggie.
The Mitchell, the Margaret Chase Smith. I mean, I think that's a good one too, and I wouldn't be opposed to. I guess they want to change names, but it's a good one. I don't really have any other ferry service update other than there's going to be that meeting next week, and we can talk to several folks from Maine State Ferry Service and MDOT. Sea level rise update. I guess, does anybody have any questions or comments about the ferry before we move on to sea level rise? Hearing none, on to sea level rise update. Shay, do you have any update?
Great. I will probably also blast that notice about that meeting to the Sea Level Rise Committee, just because I know we want to mention, start to talk about how they would like to partner to talk about Grindle Point issues. Other than that, I've been working with Dave Petzel and Melissa Olson to get an application for an Island Fellow completed. It's just about ready. Thank you to Janet for a letter of support, and I think we're going to be submitting it tomorrow. So our next meeting is March 24th.
And when do you hear, or when might you, how long does it take to hear back if?
I don't remember. I think probably, I would think April-ish timeframe, because
Okay.
then they'd start, then they'd have to hire a fellow after they select which site. So I would think it would take.
Before we're really totally done with the budget, maybe, because if,
Right, if we didn't get it, then yeah, I think,
Yeah.
I would think we would hear or have a good inclination one way or the other. Yeah.
Can I ask a clarificational question?
Mhm.
So the Energy Committee was talking about the Island Fellow for the one that's coming, because Ann McKee's 2 years is up now. And so would it be a different one?
So
Like, do you get,
right, so each community can apply for what projects they want to work on. I know that the ICC and the Energy Committee, and I think the school was interested in kind of partnering, and they had been in talks with Dave about potentially going in on one application. Long story short, the community center was going to be the lead organization on that, and they have, since they hosted, and there's a policy that you can't have the same organization as the host organization year
Every
after
year.
year,
Gotcha.
right? Because the intention is not to replace a staff position, it's to work on a specific project and then do something else. And so I have talked with the Energy Committee, and I've talked with Kate at the school about how, this fellow could potentially, would want to be supportive of the work and make sure that our projects kind of are connected to the school if possible. And Kate was enthusiastic. So I think this will be the only fellows application that will be submitted from Islesboro this round.
okay. I just wasn't sure how all of that worked through, and it was like, oh, if we can get a bunch of them, awesome.
Sadly, no. One.
We get
If we're lucky, we get one.
We get
We're not guaranteed one.
An army of island volunteers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all about it.
that's great.
Yeah, great. Is there any questions for Shay about sea level rise before we move on? Hearing none, on to upcoming meetings and subcommittee reports. There is the meeting we discussed with Mark Higgins and Dave Bernhardt, which is going to be next Wednesday after the 9 a.m. boat. Planning board meeting on March 14th, groundwater protection committee meeting on March 16th. On to the town manager's report.
Okay, I've sent you, and I apologize, things were late this time, but I sent you the agenda for today. The minutes of the February 17th meeting, this warrant number 18 and the recap. And I was going to give you minutes of the February 8th Lighthouse Restoration Committee meeting, because it also had a bunch of new information on it, but I decided, I think I already gave those minutes to you the last meeting, so Information in there will come up on the budget. Dave Etzel has estimate from this Jim Leslie about painting the exterior of the lighthouse and things like that, so.
That's just the tower, right? It's not the,
Exterior, just the lighthouse, yeah.
not the building.
No, just the lighthouse. We just want to get that done. And the estimate was quite high,
How
but
much is quite high? I can't remember.
I'm thinking it's like 58, 54,
Seems like a lot
28,
to
and
be. there.
24, 52, 53.
That seems like.
Well,
a
what
lot,
was
but
the
who knows?
28 number?
Well, that's very interesting, but that's for the setup of getting the
Preparation,
preparation, the staging out here.
probably containment
things
for
like
whatever
that.
they're.
And they have to do, setting up the staging up on the,
Yeah.
and then the other figures, there were 2 or 3 figures, and one was for this and that, but the whole thing was about 52,000. And when we get to the budget, I had put in under, for the museum, under Public Works, the building renovations and maintenance, 50,000, thinking, hoping at that point I might get exterior painted and the interior part done. But it's really important. I mean, we've been wanting to paint. This is the first guy in 15 years that has responded, and I think it would be beautiful, probably, but kind of haven't thought much more, and maybe Dave will have. And if we get the money from the Island Institute to do that, from Al Hodson, the engineering structural survey, see what he says about the inside, because that's important to take care of the lead. But we've been wanting to get the outside painted for a long time. I think the last guy that did it had been a subcontractor of Pete's. I think it was around $12,000 or $13,000. And it was just, get what you pay for.
Mhm.
And I didn't know if Dave Ketchel might want to say something, but they're meeting on the 8th, and they're probably going to discuss that with their committee.
Okay,
I think that's it for me, other than working on the budget, working on the budget, working on the budget, working on the budget.
next week, budget committee. Incompetent.
The health center is a big issue, working on that, and Dory has not been here for a couple of weeks, so I'm trying to find time to connect with her to work on it and go over it, so it won't be finalized next week, probably. Things will still be, we're trying to figure things out, so just be aware of that, because that's like the head of the workshop. It starts with
Health Center.
health.
If we have to shift, I guess we will.
Yeah, I'll just give you fair warning, I guess. I'm not gonna make her crazy, and I'm not gonna make myself crazy. Everything else, I'm pretty much ready, just filling in numbers right now.
We don't have to go in order, do it.
No, I mean, it's just, I usually do that, it was like it's number 40, then it goes to 41. So that is it from me.
Okay, great. Any questions before we move on? Hearing none. Correspondence, none. What was that?
Who's
I
taking-
get us.
There's no correspondence, no old business. Next on the agenda is reviewing and adopting the 2022 Islesboro Looking Ahead. I know I made some changes and Lauren Bruce emailed in a change. Did she email everybody about that today or today, yesterday? Does anybody have any comments or thoughts about this? It doesn't represent a large change from the previous year, as sometimes is the case. And I suspect as we start making headway on some of the very large projects that we're talking about, sea level rise, affordable transportation, health center changes to the buildings and infrastructure, roads, et cetera, that there'll be some larger changes. But I think right now I left it mostly similar to what we did last year for Islesboro Looking Ahead, but I'm open to suggestions and recommendations If anybody has any now, or if there's a will to pass this tonight, I think that's good. So any thoughts, questions, concerns, ideas?
I thought it looked good.
I thought it looked good too. The only question that I had, and I'm sorry, I thought about emailing it and then forgot, and I just saw the words. So,
How can you go on?
is recognizing the large investment we're about to see in the wastewater treatment facility. I mean, I don't know if that is going, if that's this year, or if we want to just wait and make that more of a call out next year when we have more of an idea of how much that project is going to cost.
So what did you want to change in here?
It's just thinking, so right now, the
I'm looking at the
the
list.
capital improvements, wastewater is a bullet. I'm just recognizing among all of those, it's going, we anticipate it being a pretty expensive bullet.
Yes.
Oh, I
It is an expensive bullet. Do you want to pull that out somewhere and have it be highlighted, or we want to?
Well, that's just why, it was the only question that I had.
How could we, elaborate on that
I mean,
some way?
I mean, I don't think it's necessary. I guess that's the only question that I would raise. I think otherwise it looks really good. Because it's not a new thing. It is, maybe it's not a bad thing to recognize that right now, those are all bullets that are just sort of easy to kind of read as a list, but they are actually pretty,
You wanna
not
add something like
insignificant.
Actively researching or going to actively.
maybe there's more
research
points here that are being actively researched, like the health center and the roads, and I'm not against having that broken out in some way.
Continued evaluation.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, lots of these are, I mean,
Some of them
it's
are
sort of
huge.
like the list, right? It's
Yeah.
just a matter of, so it may not need anything. That's the only thing that kind of.
I'm happy either way. If there's some language and a suggestion change that you want to make, I'm happy with that too.
Yeah.
I can see what you were saying, because just wastewater treatment, okay, and then supporting the next one. And so maybe wastewater treatment repair, and that way it's more of a note that we're doing something to it.
Yeah, what would you say? I mean, we're reviewing it. We're having an
Rehabbing.
engineering study underway
Evaluating.
or.
Engineering is an expensive word. That makes.
Oh, evaluating. Something like that.
I mean, all of these are getting, I mean, several of them are getting evaluations, so.
Right, so I was gonna say,
um,
if we're gonna blow out wastewater treatment, we probably ought to add to Island Roads, the health center, as well as the harbor facility. Well, that's harbor facilities. Is there?
I mean, it could be that, I mean, maybe we just add a sentence that is basically like, areas in bold or ongoing or upcoming major, I don't know.
Is sea level rise not in this list, addressing sea level rise?
It's in,
Am I-
it's in a call out under immediate attention to long-term
Okay,
challenges.
great, okay, I was looking and thinking.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to cause a like
No, no, it's
problem
fine.
to,
There's not a problem at all. I'm just trying to think of, so there's a couple possibilities. One is we try to, someone makes a motion to amend this and we do the corrections afterwards and agree on it now. Two, we push it off till the next meeting and try to do something via email. Or three, we keep it as it is and keep this in our minds for next year when we think about how we're looking ahead. So those seem to me to be the three possibilities, and I'm happy with any of them.
This is also here under 3 at the bottom of page 2, upgraded water and sewer systems.
which, sorry, what
The
page was
bottom of
that?
page 2, the very bottom bullet.
So we did some upgrades to that.
We did, we have, I
But
mean, little by little.
should we,
So page 2, why did I put this back to back? It's driving me crazy.
Save paper.
Capital maintenance projects necessary for good functional wastewater treatment.
I mean,
Yeah,
but some of these things, I mean, the more you,
yeah,
you can start changing that, but then expanded health services, and we're getting right back into where do you stop, what, because
Right.
we're talking about, we're working on these things all the time, and the fact that some things have been upgraded does not mean they're not on the list to continue to be upgraded, changed, and improved. But it's,
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I would vote for option 3.
leave it and we'll think about it next year.
Yep.
Anybody have any objection to that? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve Islesboro looking ahead as it stands, with the caveat that we'll want to take a look specifically about wastewater treatment next year. And I suspect other things will be on the list to changes next year as well. Moved by Melissa. Second by Phil. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, Shay,
Aye.
Phil,
All right,
Melissa.
Aye.
I also vote aye. We have now adopted Islesboro looking ahead. I think we will need to amend the date at the end about, I think there's a March 3rd. No, someone's already done that and thought of it. Great. Nice work, Tina and Janet
thank you.
and Bo. Whoever thought of that and caught it, great. We've done it.
so it was fait accompli from the start.
What?
It was fait accompli from the
It
start.
was. Okay, so that's good. Other business. Is there anybody who has any other business either on the call or in person while we're here talking about town business? Hearing none. I would entertain a motion to approve warrant number 18 for year 22. Moved by Shay.
Second.
Second by Melissa. Is there any discussion about the warrant? Hearing none, all in favor, Shay,
Aye.
Phil,
All right,
Melissa.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Warrant is approved. We have a slate of appointments that we need to address tonight. We have Josh Leach for the Energy Committee, Melissa Olson for the Grindle Point Sailors Museum, Pam Larson for Groundwater, and Trish Goodspeed for Safe Roads. Is it Goodspeed or Godspeed? Goodspeed.
Goodspeed.
Okay,
What did I type?
Goodspeed.
good.
Sure.
Yeah, Trish
It
Goodspeed
would
for
be
Safe Roads.
appropriate.
Well, I guess I probably mispronounced it then. Anyway, for quality individuals, and we thank them for willing to serve on these committees. Is there any discussion, or if not, I would entertain a motion to approve that slate of appointments. Moved by Phil,
Second.
second by Melissa. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Shay,
Aye.
Phil,
Aye.
Melissa.
Aye.
I also vote aye. The appointments are approved. Chair comments. I feel like there was something that I wanted to say. I can't remember what. Let me start by signing the appointments, actually. Vice Chair comments, Shay, you have anything you want to share today?
I don't.
Melissa? No.
More
Nor do I,
basketball
sorry.
things.
No comments from anybody. I'm not going to buck the trend.
Well, I will say this, It was very nice to come down to the meeting a little bit in daylight.
Yes,
I
I
agree.
did enjoy that.
spring is already here.
Yeah.
Um,
With all of our
We had a
stuff.
60-degree day last week.
We had a late opening this morning. Kind of good.
I know the snow was, I don't know, I wasn't watching the weather closely enough, but I was very surprised at how much snow there was this morning.
He said plowing, it was
Shane.
nasty.
Yeah, it's like sort of wet and heavy.
No, did
snow.
I didn't. Yeah, okay. Thank you. I failed my assignment.
Did you just sign the top one?
I
Yeah,
only
just
signed the
the
top
one.
appointment.
That's the only one I support.
Right. But the budget, we should also sign.
Yeah, thank you.
Together, we will all get through
That's
this.
That's why you need more than one person on the select board. Otherwise, the warrant doesn't get approved. Yes,
About how you envision the budget workshop. Do you envision
pizza
Oh, food.
Let's start with that.
Think of that.
I signed up.
Do you?
Okay.
Thank you.
A shared screen with looking at my Excel spreadsheet. Is that something that you?
As
require?
opposed to having our own copies and.
Yes,
and
you will
following
have your
along.
own copy, but do you require, you think that's necessary for?
It's going to be necessary, I think, if folks are going to participate effectively from home. We need to have a mechanism to share probably your,
Or a link to a PDF.
yeah, that's fine too. As long as someone could pull it up on their home computer so that they can follow along, that's fine. So if we
Mhm.
post it, yeah, and I think probably posting a PDF is better than
Yeah.
an Excel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll just get wild if people start changing their
We
own
haven't- we
documents
haven't-
and then
I
complaining
can put a
about.
PDF in the contact.
I don't know where I am anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what gets confusing, it's gonna change, it's gonna
Yes.
change, and then
So-
people are gonna have,
I think we ought to make a concerted effort to put right on the front page and perhaps on the top or bottom in a footer, what revision we're dealing with, because it
Yeah.
can get confusing in a hurry when, yeah,
And the
revision
date.
1 and the date, yeah.
Yeah.
And then that way, if we have a new copy and someone says, oh, it doesn't look right to me, then you say, what revision are you looking at? And say, it's old,
Yeah.
get a new copy.
I mean, we struggle enough in this room, let
Yes,
alone
I know.
people over there.
There will be some struggles, I'm sure, to get people on the same page, but I do think it's worthwhile, especially if people participate in the budgeting process. I think that's a good thing. The more
Yeah,
the more the
it'd be
merrier.
interesting.
You will send us the Excel spreadsheets, the board?
Well, as soon as the minute it's.
No, I'm just saying versus a
Yes.
PDF.
Oh, yes, and I'm gonna give you, make sure you get a paper copy.
And I don't think there's really any harm in the general public having an Excel spreadsheet of the information that's publicly available, except for when we're sharing it in regards to a meeting, it has the potential to get really confusing if things start getting changed and people get confused about what is on the, and so if you have a PDF, it's a set document that people can
Yeah.
work from.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, that's. I'll talk to you. But we're gonna get that webinar.
Yeah. That was exciting.
oh, one
Didn't even see it.
one question, is the town going to stop having the door locked for the office? I'll throw that out there as something to think about, not as something to have a discussion.
I have to
right now.
pay Sergeant Locke to come back and change the lock. It's nothing that we can change. It's the mechanism for the door.
There's no ability to change that in-house?
No.
Seems like a strange setup.
I think it's been pretty good.
But- So it might be good for you.
We
I'm
can
so,
prop,
I
I mean, we
expect
can prop the
it's not,
door.
I'm not,
open.
it's not worth talking about right now, other than I'll throw it out there as something to consider perhaps for another discussion another time. Because I know that some folks have mentioned to me that it's less inviting and facilitates, it's not as nice to have the door locked.
We still probably are only gonna take care, I mean, we're not gonna let people, and we have to talk about this, but,
Yeah. It's not trying to make a decision right now, just
loiter in the
raising. the
area
issue.
there, if I only have Tina or.
Do we have to sign
No.
as we're looking ahead? Or something to sign?
No.
Okay, I don't want to. All right, with that, motion to adjourn.
Some of,
Second, aye. We are 6 o'clock.
next one will go a little longer.